Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient slash survivor. Been dealing with cancer since early 2021, late 2020, and doing very well and adjusting to our home in Texas. This is our second winter that we're going through, and we just came out of a pretty cold phase, and now we're getting some rain starting tomorrow, some pretty good rain, but all is good. We're thankful that, the family is doing well and it's safe. And our granddaughter, 1-year-old granddaughter, is growing like crazy and learning a lot of things. And so we're very, very happy with the way things are going here. And I'm very happy to uh, introduce our guest who is returning for part two, Mr. James Kiesewetter. And it's going to be really, really good because James has a fantastic story. So at this time, I would like to bring on James. Please reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to get into a great conversation. James.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate the introduction. As Mark said, I'm James Kiesewetter. I'm a stage 3C/4 cancer survivor, colorectal cancer survivor. Um, I'm currently a coach. I work with HSPs, or highly sensitive people. High sensory processors is what we'd like to call them. They take in extra information. It's about 20% of the population has the trait of high sensitivity or high sensory processing. And they take in more information than the other 80% of the population. And they tend to overwhelm and have anxiety when it comes to work issues. So I love to work with them and help them along in their employment and help them get to their next step. I also, before the cancer, I was in corporate sales, in pharmaceutical sales and in surgical sales. Was a top performer in the top 10 to 15% nationally, and I love to do coaching for other professionals in pharmaceutical and surgical sales, um, help them reach that next level, that next goal, that next step in their career that they want to reach. So that's what I do currently, and I'm looking forward to discussing the rest of my story today. So thank you for having me on again. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, James. Thank you for joining us. And so, what we want to do is pretty much pick up where we left off last time. So, let's get into the conversation. And I'm passing it back to you, James.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I think that we last when last we left, we were discussing uh, the fact that I had a temporary ileostomy after the first major surgery.
You want to
When
explain what that is? Because some people don't know what that is.
Absolutely, absolutely. A temporary ileostomy is when they take a portion of the small intestine and they route it out through the abdomen, usually on the right hand side of the abdomen, and it collects in a bag. Um, an ileostomy tends to be more acidic because it doesn't have the process of going through the large intestine where water reabsorption and mineral reabsorption occurs. Um, so ultimately, it's healthier to have what's called a colostomy uh, bag, and that's when they take the large intestine and they route it out on the left hand side usually. So in any event, I had a temporary ileostomy in order to allow my large intestine to heal and to try to rest for a while.
So, you had two bags, one on each side?
I had at separate times, but I did. I had the ileostomy bag first on the right hand side, and that was to allow the large intestine to heal, and then had that reversed. So they reattached the small intestine and allowed material to go through the full GI tract. Um, And then, unfortunately, due to stricture in the rectum, scar tissue, it closed off, and I had more and more trouble in the bathroom. So I ended up with a permanent colostomy where they took the end of the large intestine and they routed it out on the left hand side of my abdomen, and that collects in a bag. As I said, it's healthier, to have a colostomy than it is an ileostomy. Just if you could think of it, just it makes practical sense. Just to allow the natural contents to go through your system and be able to be resorbed, the water resorption that occurs in the large intestine, as well as the mineral transfers that occur. So yeah, I had both of those bags. Unfortunately, I had to after I had my ileostomy, I had it for about 3 months to allow the large intestine to heal, and it was a slow heal because I did have the chemo radiation beforehand, 3 months of radiation treatments, and the radiation made it more difficult for me to heal. Um, as I said in the first video, I had wounds that incision wounds that would break open, that would just fill with fluid. I had suture pus pockets, they call them, which were pretty unpleasant. You know, they just my body just wouldn't heal. But finally, it did. And 3 months later, I was able to go in for that ileostomy reversal, to try to get things working again. Um, I went through about 6 months or so before I before I transitioned to a permanent colostomy. Before I finally said enough is enough. I can't manage this anymore. You know, the fact that things are not allowed to pass through that stricture, through that scar tissue, like they're supposed to. So I decided to electively go for a permanent colostomy. That was my only choice, basically, was I could continue to dilate painfully at home with dilators, or I could, and hope that things would open up more, or I could go in for that permanent colostomy. And I opted for the permanent colostomy.
Let
So,
me ask you something. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, that you've been able to handle it so gracefully. How have you, how were you able to, at the beginning, mentally able to handle that? Because I mean, that's just unbelievable to me.
yeah, mentally, Mark, it was very difficult especially in the beginning. Um, Having waking up after that 10 and a half hour surgery, the first one, and having that temporary ileostomy, also not being able to urinate anymore. I lost my ability to urinate and had to begin self catheterizing after they removed the indwelling catheter. Um, it was a lot on me, having that bag, when it would start to leak, especially with an ileostomy, it has, more caustic acids because it's in from the small intestine. The small intestine is where a lot of the acidic material is. And so when it leaks, it can eat the skin around the bag. And so,
Really?
yeah, so um, it can do a lot of harm to you, and make it very painful to be able to keep a bag on you even. So I would have leaks in the hospital, and no nurses were available to come help me, and I was trying to manage it myself, and figure this out. And it was a lot, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, when they gave me that 5 hour ultimatum that I discussed in the first video about being able to urinate after about a week of convalescence in the hospital, Um, and I couldn't pee, and I almost lost it. I had tears in my eyes, welling in my eyes, talking to the doctor, because I just wanted to get the heck out of the hospital, to do my complete my convalescence at home. I don't do well with people interrupting you, every half an hour to check on your vitals or whatnot, like they do in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
They mean well, they mean the best to try to take care of you, but um, I'm more of a personal guy, and I wanted to be at home where I could just try to take care of myself and heal. So they did finally let me out of the hospital, and taught me how to self catheterize to urinate. Um, and so I did that, and I still do have to do that to this day, believe it or not. I can force urinate sometimes, but other times I do need to catheterize. So I can, most days I'm catheterizing than not. Um, Still, 20 years later, you know, it.
That 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 is unbelievable. So, uh, how have you been able to navigate life with these restrictions in your life? I mean, how do you do it?
It's difficult, I'll tell you. Whenever I go to a function or go out of the house, I need to make sure that I have my little kit with me, in case my bag starts to leak, my colostomy bag, or if I need to catheterize, then I have my catheters with me. Um, and it took a lot of getting used to you know making sure that I had that with me, but it became it became like another part of me almost. Like, when I would leave the house, I need to make sure that I have my kit with me. And so I make sure that I have that, wherever I go. When I go off to do substitute teaching work, it's in my bag. It's there, along with me just in case I need it. Most times I don't. The colostomy bags that they make these days are very good. You could swim with them. You could do all sorts of things, with them, and they stick to your skin still. And people there are different covers that you can get for them too, to try to mask them or whatever. But how are you going to mask a bag that's attached to your stomach? You can't. That's attached to your abdomen. Um, it, putting something colorful on it, isn't going to mask it or make it any prettier, in my opinion. It is what it is. And so, I'm used to wearing it now, and it saved my life. So that's that's kind of how I look at it. That saved my life, and the need to catheterize, when my bladder is very full, especially. Yeah, I need to catheterize, and that's just part of life now for me. So, good question.
Wow. I mean, my hat's off to you. That is just you've had, cancer journeys are very complex, but you've had even additional complexities added to yours. And I just commend you. I mean, you are a cancer hero in my book. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal. And, I really, really appreciate the way that you handle things because, you know, uh, there's been so many difficulties and I just really appreciate your attitude through all of it. And so talk about how important your attitude has been through the whole process.
I think attitude is everything. It helped me through recovery. It helped me through chemotherapy that I had to go through 3 months of chemotherapy after everything was healed up. And I had my colostomy and stuff. Um, and they waited for me to do that final 3 months of chemotherapy because I did have the chemo radiation. I had it, beforehand, but they found live cancer cells in the lymph nodes that they removed. So that's what upstaged me, along with the spot on my liver that they found suspicious. That ultimately ended up disappearing with the chemotherapy, the 3 months worth of chemotherapy. Um, so, but I think attitude is everything. You have to keep a positive attitude. Um, of course, you're going to have your down days, and days when you don't want to get out of bed going through this. But you know, most more you'll find that over time, more days than not start to become better and better. Um, and right, and so it's just it's something that you get used to. I think as your body acclimates and as long as you try to keep that positive attitude that I'm alive, I'm here, and I'm here for a purpose. There's you know God must have put me here for some reason, to go through all this, you know. And so I'm spiritual that way. I'm not overly religious, but I do believe in spirituality and the healing part of nature, hence the background. um, so yeah, positive attitude is a lot.
So, what is your purpose, James?
What is my purpose? Well, I got to raise my two sons into the fine young men that they are today. Um, I have a 25-year-old and a 28-year-old son, and I, I I got to be here for them and to raise them, almost almost on my own. After the divorce, um, it was difficult. My ex-wife didn't um, wasn't around as much as I would have liked her to be for the boys, and I ended up raising them essentially, um, and so I think that was part of my purpose was to raise my sons. Um, I also
That's
believe that.
beautiful, by the way.
Thank you, thank you. I also believe that my purpose here is to help other people. I'm telling my story today in so much detail and the other day in so much detail to try to help other people who are going through this journey to realize that, you can get through it. You will get through it. Um, you know, just trying to keep that positive attitude, is a lot, and trying different things too. I incorporated Eastern medicine in along with Western medicine. I did Rife therapy. I did acupuncture. Um, I've done a lot of therapy work. Psychological therapy afterwards, to try to help me through my divorce and to help me through my cancer diagnosis and all. And I believe that helped too. Um, but it's your overall outlook on life, and as I said, I believe that I'm still here to help others. I love doing the coaching work that I do now. I love when I substitute teach with the little kids and help them, understand life and learn new things. So I think that's my purpose overall is to help others. But
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I could just add, thank you. If I could just add, you can't forget to help yourself though. Um, it's a big thing when going through the cancer was me learning to ask for help. Um, I was a macho guy kind of thing, and I, didn't I thought I could handle it all on my own, and you can't. You really can't. You need to have other people around you, and not be afraid to ask for help when you need help. Um,
That is
and
such an important point. We grow up and a lot of us uh, go through life and we do, running businesses and working with people and you're in control. But when cancer knocks on your door, you have to answer it. And you all of a sudden have to almost change what you've been in your life up to that point in certain aspects, and as you say, be willing to accept help, even though you never thought you needed it. And that's a really, really hard thing. I mean, uh, I think I don't know if what you did, but what I used to do was look in the mirror in the morning and really try to understand where I was that day. And that was really important to me and accept where I was that day and understand that, I am not physically the same person that I was, a few months ago and be willing to accept who you see in that mirror right at that time. And that's hard. And we were talking about Alzheimer's before and how it affects people. And, cancer has a little bit different way of doing it, but it's also very similar in the fact that you are one person before cancer and you're a different person after cancer. So if you can talk about that aspect
that's
of it.
exactly right. Yeah. It's your new normal that you need to come to accept. And it changes, it's as you go through it, from one phase to another. Um, and it's important, to take things in small steps, try to break it down into small stepping stones kind of thing. Um, and in time, I've learned to ask, what has this do done for me kind of thing, instead of why has this happened to me? Um, but, but yeah, it's, uh, it's a very important thing, that you take things slowly and try to accept your new normal. Um, I sometimes will fall back into the habit of what I call James 1, James 2, thinking. Um, James before cancer, James after cancer. The James before cancer thinks he can do everything that he wants to do. Um, that's out there. Of course I can move that piece of furniture now and do whatever. I'm a big burly guy. Of course I can take care of that. But the James 2, the post cancer, I need to think in that sense and say, I would love to be able to move that. Yeah, I can lift it, but if I do that, I'm going to be putting myself out for quite a while. Um, and that's been a difficult journey too, because I revert back to that James 1, James 2 thinking, quite a bit, um, to see what I can manage and stuff. And I test my normals, and my normals change every day. I think, sometimes I realize, no, James can't move that big piece of furniture by himself, you know. But I can do other things, that I test myself on. And when I do, I find that my new normal changes. It becomes a little bit more, my body's more restricted than it used to be. Um, but I still am capable of doing a lot of things, and even more so when I challenge myself and take on new things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James, do you think we have a lot more to talk about?
Um, I think that you guys have heard a lot of my story.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'd certainly, yeah, be willing to talk more in depth about certain topics within cancer if you would like. What do you have in
Yeah,
mind,
what
Mark?
why don't we invite you back for a part three and we can explore some I mean I just love hearing what you have to say and the way you say it and your experiences being such a long time survivor and what you've gone through and how you're able to navigate uh, your life that you've been given and appreciate it and that's such a rare thing and it's really a phenomenal and I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity to talk about this because I just feel so blessed uh, to have heard this and because I've known you for a while now and but it wasn't until we actually started talking about that. I mean, I'm just blown away and I'm really impressed
Wow.
with
Well,
the person that you are.
thank you so much for saying that. Thank you. Seriously. Um, uh, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to come back for a third interview.
Okay.
If this helps you, if this helps others,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's do it because I think we can uh talk about some subjects that I think people would really like to learn from because you know so many people I think when they get cancer it's about why me and that's something that I what I did ask myself that question early on, but then it turned to why not me?
why not me? Right.
And and I
Absolutely.
and I think that that same thing happened with you as well.
It did. It definitely did.
Okay, so we could talk about that as well next
I'd
time.
be
But
happy to.
yeah, I would love to do that. So why don't you sum up, you know, the most important thing from what we talked about today in this part two, and then I have one final question for you.
Okay. The most important thing I would say that we talked about is keeping a positive attitude. Um, Trying to get through cancer from day to day and manage your body and all the changes that are happening to you and the new person that you're becoming. It's huge. I mean, it's mind blowing. Um, and it's just so important to stay positive in those moments. And like I said before, you're going to have those down days when you want to hide your head and just say, I can't take it anymore, and that's okay. Um, you know, you have that one day or 2 days, whatever, but then you pick yourself back up. It's important to always pick yourself back up and to remain positive, and to move on. So I think that's the most important part of what we've talked about today.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And my final question to you is this.
Shoot.
Your purpose was to help raise your sons yourself. I mean, uh, and that was very, very important to you. So along those lines, what is the most important thing that you want wanted to impress on them, or you still want to impress on them as young men?
That's that's a great question. Very, very good question. Um, I am very proud that I was able to raise two sons who are also HSP, who are high sensory processors. Um, One is an empath as well, and he can take on feelings from other people like I can. Um, it's it's a trait. It's part of the trait of being a high sensory processor. Some of us have it, some of us don't. It depends on how you fall on the spectrum, which you can go to, by the way, at hsperson.com if you want to take the quiz and see if you are a high sensory processor or highly sensitive person. We tend to be more empathetic, and what I wanted to teach my sons especially was that it's okay to be empathetic. and to show emotion, even though you're a male in today's society. It's something that's, we're all human, and emotions are what make us human. Um, it's not a feminine trait, it's not a masculine trait, it's a human trait. And so I think that's something that was really important for me to convey to my sons, and for them to realize, early on that they are HSPs. I didn't know this growing up. The data wasn't available to the late '90s. Um, with fMRI studies and all that showed the differences in the brains of HSPs. So I wish that I had known, back when I was 20 something year old, that I was an HSP, and that these things that I was going through were perfectly normal, and that being extra empathetic is fine. You're not being too sensitive. You can't tell a tree not to be a tree. You are who you are, and that's okay. You're great the way you are. So that's
I
that's
love that. I love
thank you.
that. And I'm gonna come up with great title for this video, so I'm gonna work on that. Um, and I think you'll like it, definitely. But James, thank you so much for joining us for this part two, and we look forward to part three and final part three of this series with James Kiesewetter. And thank you so much for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comment section, ring the notification bell so that you can get these videos every week. And we do post it every Monday on To Be Your Own Hero. And thank you so much for joining us. And once again, make the most of your time here on Earth because we never know when we're going to go. And, it could be today, tomorrow, a year from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. We just don't know that. I don't know if I want to be around for 100 years more, but whatever, I last to is when I last to, and I'll appreciate that extensively to the end. But make the most of your time on Earth. You only grow around once. Every single day is precious. Every single day is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. And so I just wish all of you have a fantastic week and do something for somebody else. Make somebody, give somebody the opportunity to smile and you be the source of that reason. So have a fantastic week. Be blessed, everyone. And we will see you next week with part three with James Kiesewetter. Thank you so much, and we will see you then.